So there's another Lovecraft game coming out. I know, I rolled my eyes too. We've had about 40 of them and most of them range from alright to actually insulting to Lovecraft's legacy. But Cthulhu, the Cosmic Abyss, this one's different. It's from a studio with serious pedigree. It's doing things I actually haven't seen in a horror game before, and it launches April the 16th. I've played the demo, I've read every interview, and I've got 5 things you absolutely need to know before this game drops, and some of them properly surprised me, so let's get into it. Number 1. The studio behind it has been quietly making some of the best investigation games nobody has played. Right, first things first, who's actually making this? Big Bad Wolf Studio, a French developer, and unless you're specifically into narrative RPGs, you've probably never heard of them, but you should have. Their first game was The Council, which came out in 2018. It was a narrative RPG set in the late 1700s where you're at a secret gathering on a mysterious island, investigating conspiracies alongside historical figures like Napoleon and George Washington. See, it was rough in places, the later episodes wobbled a bit, but the investigation mechanics and branching dialogue was actually excellent. It was doing things with player choice that most studios still haven't figured out. Then they made Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song in 2022. Same DNA, investigation, branching narrative, RPG mechanics, but set in a world of darkness. Reviews were mixed, and I'll be honest, it was a little bit crap in places. The facial animations that looked like they were rendered on a calculator, but underneath that, the actual detective work, the dialogue systems, the way your choices cascaded through the story, it was properly impressive. It was a game that was better than it looked, which is a frustrating thing to say, but there it is. So why does this matter? Because Cthulhu the Cosmic Abyss is essentially everything Big Bad Wolf has been building towards. 2 games of refining investigation mechanics, branching narratives and player-driven deduction. Is now applied to Lovecraftian horror with a proper budget and Nikon publishing. The game director has said the team started development in early 2023, and the Lovecraft IP has apparently been floating around the studio's corridors for years before that. They didn't just pick Cthulhu because it's recognisable, they picked it because their entire design philosophy, rewarding curiosity, punishing hasty conclusions, and making the player feel like an actual detective, maps perfectly onto cosmic horror. This isn't a studio taking a punt on horror, this is a studio that's been quietly training for this exact game for nearly a decade, and that's worth knowing. It's set in 2053, not the 1920s, and that changes everything. Here's the thing that immediately caught my attention. Every Lovecraft game, and I mean basically every single one, is set in the past. The 1920s, maybe the 1930s if they're feeling adventurous. Foggy harbours, old books, men in long coats looking worried. You know the drill. Cthulhu, the Cosmic Abyss, it's set in 2053. Earth's surface resources are nearly depleted. Corporations have started mining the deepest parts of the ocean because of course they have. And in the Pacific Ocean, a crew of deep sea miners has vanished without a trace. You play as Noah, an agent of ANSEA, a secret division of Interpol that specialises in occult affairs, which is a job title I desperately want on a business card. Noah's sent down to investigate, accompanied by an AI companion called Key. And this is where it gets interesting, because the futuristic setting isn't just window dressing, it fundamentally reshapes the gameplay. In a 1920s Lovecraft game, your tools are a magnifying glass, a notebook, or a torch that barely works. In 2053, you've got a sonar system that can tune in to different frequencies to track evidence. You've got the Vault, essentially a digital mind palace where you organise clues on an interactive evidence board. You've got augmentations and upgrades all in world and nothing that breaks immersion. But here's the bit that really sells it. The director explains it in an interview that the near future setting creates this fascinating contrast. You leave a world that feels familiar and recognisable, and you descend into the ancient sunken city where Cthulhu is imprisoned. A place with impossible architecture and things that existed long before humanity was a concept. The gap between your advanced technology and this ancient, incomprehensible horror is what generates the dread. Your gadgets work fine in a mining facility, They are absolutely useless against something that predates your entire species by millions of years. It also lets them explore themes that feel actually relevant: resource depletion, corporate overreach, the rise of AI, and climate change. The ocean is already creeping into coastal cities in this world. Humanity is already on the back foot before Cthulhu even enters the picture. It's clever. It makes the cosmic horror feel less like a museum piece and more like a warning. Number 3. There is zero combat, and that's the whole point. This is the one that's going to divide people, so let's get into it. There is no combat in this game. None. No weapons, no guns, no improvised crowbar swinging. Nothing. And before you close the video, that's a deliberate design choice, not a limitation. The director has been very clear about this. His exact words were, "No conventional weapon will be any help here. Only your tools and your mind will allow you to overcome the adventure." The idea is that you're an occult investigator, not a soldier. You are in a place that is fundamentally beyond human comprehension. Shooting a cosmic entity that existed before the concept of death is not going to help you. What will help you is understanding the rules of this world, either accepting them or finding ways to bypass them through ingenuity. That's a survival loop, no combat, investigation and intelligence. And honestly, for a Lovecraft game, this makes complete sense. One of the biggest criticisms of previous Lovecraft games, Call of Cthulhu, The Sinking City, even Conarium, is that the moment you hand the player a gun, the cosmic horror evaporates. You can't feel insignificant in the face of an unknowable universe if you've got a shotgun. It just doesn't work. Big Bad Wolf have looked at this problem and gone, right, we're just removing that entirely. But no combat doesn't mean no danger. The game can and will kill you. The location itself is hostile. The architecture, the environment, the creatures that inhabit it. You survive by paying attention, by being smart about how you investigate, and by understanding what you're dealing with. The demo already shows this. There are creatures that react to your sonar, environments that shift when you're not looking, and the constant underlying tension that comes from being completely defenseless in a place that wants you gone. The investigation mechanics themselves are layered. You find clues, you scan them with your sonar to set frequency flags, and then you can track matching evidence in the environment. You collect information in the vault, your digital mind palace, where you arrange clues on the evidence board, link them together, and draw conclusions. The game doesn't tell you which connections to make. It gives you the tools and says, figure it out, and there are multiple valid ways to resolve each investigation, some of which are quicker but cost you dearly in terms of corruption. More on that in a second. Games Radar preview described the investigation system as so detailed it threatened to unravel my mind, which is either a compliment or a cry for help, possibly both. The point is, this isn't a walking simulator with Lovecraft wallpaper. It's an actual investigation game with proper depth. The absence of combat creates space for that depth to breathe. Number 4. The corruption system is actually brilliant, and it has 6 endings. Alright, this is the one that properly impressed me. Most Lovecraft games have a sanity system. Usually it's a see scary thing, screen goes wobbly, maybe you hallucinate for a bit. It's fine, it works. It's also been done to death. Cthulhu the Cosmic Abyss has a corruption system, and it works in 3 distinct ways. First, scripted events. Certain moments in the story will rise your corruption no matter what. You witness something, you learn something you shouldn't have, and it costs you. These are unavoidable. The game is going to corrupt you whether you like it or not. It's Lovecraft, that's the deal. Second, investigation choices. This is where it gets clever. How you resolve an investigation directly affects your corruption. Some solutions preserve Noah's integrity, others push him closer to the abyss. The game doesn't flag which is which, you have to work it out based on what you've learned. If you've investigated thoroughly, you'll likely make better choices. If you've rushed, you're guessing, and guessing in a place like this is how people stop being people. Third, and this is the really interesting one, the cost of knowledge. You can voluntarily accept corruption in exchange for energy points, which are needed to deeply analyse certain clues. So the game is literally asking you, how much of your sanity are you willing to trade for information? It's a resource management system where the resource is your protagonist's grip on reality. And corruption isn't just a narrative gauge that affects the ending, it actively shapes your gameplay. Your abilities and upgrades can transform, improve, or break depending on your corruption level. Some perks become more powerful as you corrupt, others degrade, so you're constantly making micro decisions about what kind of investigator you want to be, methodical and sane, or reckless and powerful but teetering on the edge. The director compared it to Red Dead Redemption 2's karma system. It reflects your action without showing a precise score. There's no number on the screen telling you how corrupted you are. You just have to feel it, which is, frankly, perfect for cosmic horror. And all of this feeds into 6 different endings, primarily determined by your corruption level and how you've resolved investigations throughout the game. The main story takes between 10 and 15 hours to complete, with significant more content for players who explore thoroughly. That's not a short game, that's a proper investigation with real consequences. This might actually be the first Lovecraft game that understands Lovecraft. I know that's a bold statement, but hear me out. Most Lovecraft games use the surface level stuff, tentacles, madness, dark water, things man was not meant to know, and that's fine as far as it goes. But Lovecraft's actual writing, the core of cosmic horror, is about something more significant. It's about the realization that humanity is cosmically insignificant, that the universe is vast, ancient, indifferent, and populated by things that don't even notice we exist. The horror isn't a monster chasing you down a corridor, the horror is understanding that you don't matter. And that's what Cthulhu seems to actually get. The director described this approach as tackling cosmic horror in its purest definition, where dread is born from the contemplation of a world that suppresses humanity in every way. The game doesn't hand you weapons because weapons are irrelevant here. It pairs you with an AI companion because having a character immune to madness next to one who isn't creates a fascinating contrast. Key can observe objectively while Noah is slowly losing his ability to trust his own perception. The corruption system isn't just a health bar with a Lovecraft skin, it's a mechanical expression of a central theme. The more you learn, the less human you become. Even setting choices support this. Placing it in 2053 means humanity is at its most technologically advanced, and it still doesn't matter. Your sonar, your augmentations, your digital mind palace, all of it becomes increasingly inadequate as you descend deeper into the environment. You're bringing a USB stick to fight with a god that existed before the concept of time. The game lets you feel competent at first, then slowly strips that competence away. That's not just good horror design, that's Lovecraft. The demo already hints at this. The game's radar writer describes swimming through cramped underwater tunnels, emerging in a vast, low visibility expanse, and feeling actual dread, not because something jumped out, but because the space itself felt wrong. The architecture doesn't make sense, the geometry is impossible, and those 2 red dots in the distance might be lights on a mining base, or they might be something else entirely. The game lets your imagination do the work, which is exactly how Lovecraft wrote. Now, a word of caution, the demo has performance issues, bugs, some rough edges. The developer has acknowledged this publicly and says that the launch build will be significantly more polished, but Big Bad Wolf's previous games have had a pattern of ambition slightly outpacing polish, so temper expectations accordingly. If you're the kind of person who needs a perfectly smooth experience at launch, maybe wait for the first patch. But if you're a Lovecraft fan who's been waiting years for a game that actually understands what cosmic horror is, not just the aesthetics, but the philosophy, this might be it. No combat, pure investigation, a corruption system that mechanically reinforces the themes, 6 endings driven by how you choose to investigate, and a setting that makes you feel like the most advanced thing humanity has ever produced is still laughable and inadequate in the face of something truly ancient. Cthulhu, The Cosmic Abyss, comes out April the 16th, 2026 on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S. The demo is live on Steam right now. Go play it, then come back here and tell me your sanity's intact. I dare you. That's the 5 things. If you're planning to pick this up on launch day, let me know in the comments. And if you've already played the demo, tell me what you thought. I'm curious whether the investigation system clicked for you or whether the vault made your brain leak out your ears. Both are valid responses. If this was useful, a like would be lovely. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.